they are secretly embarrassed that I don't know more.
Mm-hmm.
I don't tell me again why I'm choosing this product. There
Yes.
are days inside of financial seasons where I am just kicking myself on paper for the decisions that I made because I didn't trust my voice enough to say, hold up, I don't understand. Tell
Yes.
me again, make this simple for me. And
Yes.
I didn't ask those questions because I was embarrassed that I didn't know.
Welcome to the living room. Leave the over at the door. We'll talk it out till it's simple, till it's you again for sure. Life, leadership, money, and the names you outgrow. We make space for the woman coming through. Living room wisdom, where your story is your glory.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Living Room Wisdom, where your story is your glory. And today I have with me the most beautiful and purposeful woman that I've spoken to a lot of in a long time, in the respect of her passion and her commitment and how she leads with her faith. And so this is going to be an interesting and somewhat different conversation because we speak a lot about spirituality, but the perspective of the faith based, especially as it relates to finance, I think is going to be really juicy. So thank you for being with me. This is Lisa Y. Jones. And Lisa is a wealth strategist and she's president CEO of Financially Awakened LLC. She helps high earning women move from quiet financial stress to clear, confident, intentional wealth creation. So, this is right up my alley, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate the offer, Patrina. I really appreciate being here.
Yes. And tell us where you are. We talked about this. I'm in
Yeah.
California. You have on your nice cashmere sweater.
I
Where are
do. I
you
am
again?
in the
Middle,
Cincinnati metro
Ohio.
area, northern Kentucky, and we had 4 inches of snow on Tuesday.
Oh.
So yeah.
Oh my
Mhm.
gosh. You know what? I admire people that still live in the East Coast. I've had that experience, been there, done
Yes.
that. Good.
I
So,
still like 4 seasons, so it's a good thing. But
yes,
we don't want too much of the winter season. So,
true,
yeah.
true. I like to
There we
visit
go.
the seasons.
There we go. There we go. There we go. Come visit.
So I'm actually really excited to jump into your story.
Yeah.
I know that you have come from a position, or at least the catalyst for your
Mm.
business and who you are today is through an experience with about 300,000 or more in debt, correct?
Ooh,
And
painful, but true. Yes.
yeah, so it's like to be in a position where you're in that kind of a debt probably emotionally
Mhm.
feels helpless, hopeless, like I'm never going to get out of this situation.
Yeah.
So to see that arc of you now leading in that
Mhm.
industry
Yeah.
is phenomenal and it's inspiring. So before we go into like who you are now, I'd really love for you to share with our audience who you were when you got
Mhm.
into that position and just kind of what were you feeling, what were you experiencing uh, while you were getting into that debt?
Yeah, it's one of those stories that has multi facets to it.
Mhm.
So I could talk about this all day. So I
Right.
know I know we
Yeah.
won't. But it actually started with my husband's confession on date number two. He tells people that he backed up his financial dump truck and just laid it all out for me.
Wow.
And this is date number two, right? He is like, look, I like you. I think we might have something. I can't wine and dine you. We went Dutch the entire time we dated because both of us were in such financially strifeful positions. Oh my gosh. And I tell people I was 43 when we got married. My first marriage, I'm his second wife. And so I tell people if I were in a different place financially when we met, I would have overlooked him as a potential suitor
Hmm.
because his life financially was very messy.
Hmm.
And so if my life were together, I would not have seen him as potential. But who am I to talk when I've got, nastiness in my financial realm as well, right? So that really was the start. I I spent 10 years as a sales director with Mary Kay Cosmetics. Absolutely loved it. Had no clue how to run a business as a commission only single person living in DC Metro.
Mm, mm.
So I struggled almost every month of my career, even though I had some really, really, really great successes in the business realm. Financially, I was still a hot mess, and I never figured that out.
How
And I
long
tell
did you do
people
that?
it was 10 years.
Wow. Oh my gosh. So there's so many things like activating in my brain,
You
right?
I could do this all day.
No, there's some major connection points here because when I was younger, before I even stepped into like the speaking coaching space,
Mhm.
I was always someone who went into organizations and I would mentor and I would do little workshops and what I now know is retreats for
Right.
different organizations. Mary Kay was one of those freaking companies that they would bring me in to do like confidence training, self
Mhm.
esteem, all of these different
Yep.
things. At the time, I was a massage therapist and esthetician. So,
Mhm.
but one of the things I loved about that company as a whole is the personal development component. And it
Absolutely.
wasn't something you saw in a lot of different company
Isn't it?
cultures.
Yeah.
So here's where this gets interesting. You had within that 10 years with that company, all of this personal development, but how much financial development did you actually get in that environment?
It's crazy. I would hear snippets of conversation around things like, maybe you should get an S corporation,
Uh-huh.
but we would never, ever talk about it.
Mm,
And so there was lots of floundering. And then I'm single,
yes.
right? Most sales directors were married. So
Mm,
the dynamic was different. I mean, there were years without health insurance.
okay.
Okay. And I think we talked about this before, but I am a number one best-selling author of a daily devotional called Financial Seasons. And I talk about a lot of this painful strife that took place during that time in my life in season one. So
Mm,
Financial Seasons is 6 seasons. Season one was me as a single woman.
mhm.
So my husband shows up on day 50, and then from day 50 to day 366, we tackle us. But
Yes.
season one was all about me as a single person and trying to figure this thing out. I didn't have humble beginnings. Grew up on a farm in South Carolina. Very strong work ethic,
Yes.
but no real income to go with that.
Mhm.
So even though I'm an engineer with a master's degree, I'm making a good living, I have no idea what to do with it. The idea around saving with purpose, I don't know how to do that. I'm floundering during this
Yeah.
season of my life.
Mhm.
Um, and I touch on so many of those days in financial seasons because I feel like if we could have some of those conversations as successful Black women and be okay, and I should say women of color,
Yeah.
because while you and I can relate to this in the Black community, we see it in the Hispanic community, we see
Yes.
it in the Asian community,
Yes.
we see it in the Indian community.
Yes.
I mean, it's everywhere because we don't have the roots, there's no trust funds, right?
Right.
There is no bank account with our name on it. We didn't buy our first car while we were in high school, right?
Mhm.
We don't understand these nuances. And I quietly tried to figure this out on my own over
Right.
and over and over again.
Yeah.
So when I moved into Mary Kay full time, which was a prayer,
Mhm.
okay, I got fired from my engineering position
Mm.
6 months after I moved to DC because I wouldn't work 60 hours a week.
Right. Of course.
Right? So because I wouldn't work 60 hours a week, they fired me. My prayer had been, Lord, you know my heart. I want to do Mary Kay full time. So when I got fired, I was like, woohoo, I get to do Mary Kay full time. I now understand that is not a decision that you make without prayerfully considering. But I thought I had been praying
Yes.
instead of just asking. There's a
Mhm.
difference, right?
Yeah.
And so I embarked on this 10-year journey of I'm going to do this thing that has been my heart's desire, truly without guidance from the Lord.
Sure.
I believe I would still have done it.
Hmm.
Okay. If I could go back and pray through it and seek his wisdom, unless I truly heard, do not do this, I believe I would have done it because the spiritual growth that I got in that time period, there's no training ground for that.
Right.
I
And
mean,
were
it
you
is
doing
just,
it? Was it a parallel career for you before getting fired from the
yes,
engineering position?
yes.
So
So I was,
there's a couple things I'd really like to bring forth here before we move
okay,
on.
sure, sure.
One is that while we're speaking to this, kind of between us as a women of color issue, in reality, it's a women's issue, period,
Absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
women as a whole didn't even have the right to really handle finances, get
Right,
loans, get mortgages until the 60s. So that's the
right.
first part. But then society also pressures us or conditions us to have work ethic,
Yep.
which you mentioned,
Yes.
but we don't get conditioned to have worth ethic.
Oh, Patrina.
So we're chasing the dollar. We
Goodness.
don't have the financial basis and
Yep.
support to be able to expand it, to grow it, to, leverage it. And
Yep.
so we're spinning our freaking tails, right?
All
Trying
day
to
long.
chase this thing, and the flagpole just keeps moving because we don't have those foundations. So
And
the
those
fact
are my
that,
clients now. Those are they're
yeah,
six-figure women. They're in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, and they are secretly embarrassed that I
yeah.
don't know more.
Hmm.
I don't tell me again why I'm choosing this product. There
Yes.
are days inside of financial seasons where I am just kicking myself on paper for the decisions that I made because I didn't trust my voice enough to say, hold up, I don't understand. Tell
Yes.
me again, make this simple for me. And
Yes.
I didn't ask those questions because I was embarrassed that I didn't know.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
I went along with things that were not right for me as a single person,
Hmm.
very okay for a couple or a different scenario, maybe someone who was older, things of that
Yeah.
nature. But for me, as a 30-something-year-old single woman living alone in DC Metro with a mortgage, that
Yes.
was not the
It was
right
not
move.
right fit,
Right.
not right fit
But I didn't
products.
know enough and I was embarrassed to
Yes.
ask. I was
Yeah. Well,
embarrassed to ask.
I also think that the very reason that we have certain experiences, specifically related to finance, is probably what kind of guided you to be a
Yes.
part of that industry. Because once you bumped your head and had those experiences, fortunately gave yourself enough grace to
Yes.
continue moving through, asking questions, learning, and growing.
Yes.
But now you get to be the voice for other women, and you have the patience, you have the
Right.
experience, right, to pull on, and the empathy to be able
Yes.
to sit with them kneecap to kneecap
Yes.
and really look at what's right for them in their situation. So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
It's huge. I have a client, she works for the federal government. Not sure when this is airing, but just a few months ago, we had, this massive shutdown. She's single.
Yes.
And so, she's without a paycheck. And
Uh-huh.
we're planning for her retirement.
Hmm.
And I said, how are you feeling? And she said, I have so much peace in my life right now. And I know with certainty that would not have been the case 6 months ago before I started working with you.
Yeah.
And so to be able to bring some courage to the table, some 30,000-foot view guidance to the table, in this journey for us, this is so funny. I write about this day in the book. I desired to be married for a very long time, but I wanted to be happily married, right?
Yeah.
So I chose carefully. My husband and I did intentional dating, the whole nine yards. And so we had been engaged for just a few weeks. He came over for dinner one night and he says, I've been praying. Patrina, we love those words, right? We want our husband, our man to pray over us, except when their prayer goes against what our desires are, right? Then we're like, what are you doing? And so he comes to me and he says, I've been praying and I believe the Lord wants you to manage our finances.
Hmm. Okay.
Knock down, drag out argument because I am not having it.
Right. That's funny.
I've been trying to get rid of this forever, and now you're
Yes.
telling me I need to do it? I don't think so, dude. You need to
Yeah.
go back and ask him again. And what I realized was I had been living in so much fear, I had to do it
Mm-hmm.
because I had to come face to face with this thing that was literally paralyzing me and had paralyzed me for so many years. And that's where that empathy comes from. I had to
Yeah,
come face to face with this myself,
of course.
and it was painful. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Well,
Oh my gosh.
talk to me about like take yourself back to when you were in the debt.
Yes.
And just for clarity, when you met your husband, you were already in the debt.
Both of us had massive debts.
Okay.
Okay. His was actually more than mine.
So how did you
Um,
navigate the shame and the like, that feeling of I know that he came to you with his stuff as well and was very vulnerable, which kind of put you on a even playing ground. So maybe you were more open because of that. But how
no,
did you navigate? No? Okay, yeah, I want to hear this because there's something
I
that happens inside of us.
I was not ready
Yeah.
to be truthful with myself, let
Okay.
alone with him.
Okay.
And the turning point, I write about this in the book. The turning point is when our church, because we actually met at church,
Oh.
and our church was holding a faith-based financial Bible study.
Mm.
And it was 10 weeks long for 2 hours on Sunday afternoons. And
Okay.
I didn't want to do it.
Hmm. Very
And
resistant, huh?
very resistant. And he kept asking, and finally had that tone in his voice that said, "We're at a crossroads."
Mm.
And
You were
if we
already dating when this workshop happened.
we've been
Okay.
together over a year.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we're literally moving every decision, every disagreement, every time we have what we call an intense moment of fellowship,
Yes.
it's a decision. Are we moving past this? Can we get past this?
Mm.
Or is this the thing that causes us? Because neither of us wanted just to date, right?
Right.
We
Mhm.
were intentionally moving towards marriage. And so this had been a year, and he had been talking to me about his life, his money, the things that he was trying to fix, what his plan was, even though it had holes in it, the whole 9 yards. And I was like,
Oh,
he
wow.
knew that I had some financial issues. He had no idea what the depth of those were because I was not sharing.
Sure.
Okay.
Wow.
Because in my mind, I'm just gonna fix it.
Mhm.
I don't need to talk about it. I just need to fix it. And when I find the thing that helps me
The
to fix
magic
it,
pill.
yeah, it's gonna go away and we don't have to talk about it.
Right. So how did
That's
you
where I
navigate
was.
that? When
Yeah.
did you actually, come clean?
When I finally said I will go, and the first week's homework assignment was to assign ownership of everything that you have to the Lord.
Mm. Mhm.
That was much more painful than I desired for it to be. And
Mm.
that realization was eye-opening.
Mm.
And that is when I began in earnest to look at the financial dirty laundry that I had piled up in my closet. And that was the beginning, I think,
Yes.
of the self-discovery that comes along with the fact that it's okay. You're not alone. You've repented. God has forgiven you. Now it's time to forgive yourself.
Yes.
And
Yes.
oh, by the way, we can't just forgive ourselves. We got to fix it.
Right.
And there is no magic pill. You must do
No.
the hard work.
Yes.
I had been debt free before. I sold a house and made $130,000 in profit,
Mhm.
paid off all the debt, but it was very much lottery winner-esque
Right. Yeah, the
because there
windfall
right,
mentality.
because there was no change in behavior
Right.
after all the debt was paid. And
Yes.
so literally 2 years later, I'm back in debt again.
Mhm.
I had nothing significant to show for it because I literally nickeled and dimed my way back into debt. I was working with a client about a year ago, and he called maybe 6 months later, and I said he was asking about their finances, and I said, I thought you guys had about 15,000 in a money market account. He was like, yeah, we've been pinching on it.
Right. It's
And
all
I was
safe.
like, oh, that pension.
Yes. So how did your husband receive you then when you finally came clean? What would that
He
look like? Because I know you
Oh,
today, you
wow.
work together with the
Yes,
financials. So
yes.
yeah, tell me about that.
He was much more gracious to me than I was to me.
To yourself. Yeah.
He had already come to terms with his financial mess.
Yeah.
He was literally waiting for me to join him in this moment so that we could move forward together.
Mm-hmm.
And so we began having much more transparent conversations. I was able to speak about fear, and, concern for the future, how we're going to navigate this. But at the same time, Patrina, I still had my level of expectation as
Right.
a woman who's 40-ish, because we started dating when we were 40. So this is 41. And I desire to be married. I want the house. I want the vacations. I want the dining experience. I
Lifestyle.
want, I want lifestyle that I've not had
Yes.
all of this time. Yet on the day that we got married, we had 19 lines of payments going out in debt.
Right.
So there was some bitterness that I had to work through, but it was me having unrealistic expectation.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a day in financial seasons where I talk about the fact that it's his student loans that are
Yeah.
preventing us from doing these things. When
Yes.
the reality is those student loans were there when we were dating.
Right. The
So it's
blame and
not,
the shame, they
yeah,
kind of go, they
yeah.
go together.
Right.
Right.
So he didn't hide anything. I
Yes.
I knew all of this, but to come face to face with the impact that it's having on the expectation of lifestyle that I couldn't have in those moments, that's what drove me to my knees.
Yeah.
Lord, I can't do this in and of myself.
Mm-hmm.
I need your help. I need your guidance. And it was that process that caused me to start journaling through and literally laying it out. There was a
Yes.
pastor that we studied under years ago, and he said, when you give it a name, it ceases to have control over you.
Right. Yeah.
That's what
Right.
I had to do with the financial mess.
Bring it to the light.
You have to bring it to the light, and
Yes.
you have to then cover up the hole it came from,
Mm-hmm.
or it goes back and you just deal with it again on a bigger scale, right? And
Yeah.
so that was full circle in those first few years as we got our footing. We lived in this rented duplex for 7 years. That was just dismally disappointing to me. But it was so beautiful because near the end of our time, it took us 5 years to get out of debt. And then we saved for a year, so that we could be in position to build a house. And then it took a year to build the house. So that's why we were in the duplex for 7 years. By the time we left the duplex, our housing number was under 10% of our take home pay.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens when you have time to get rid of all the debt, position yourself into a place of wealth building, it's not just two sides of the same coin,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're two different coins.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Getting out of debt is this. You need a totally different
Yeah.
skill set to
Exactly.
build wealth.
Yes.
That is a paradigm that most people miss.
Well, and it's
I mean,
also in the teachings of money, there's a lot of
mm,
focus on one over the other, but in
absolutely.
reality, you have to have both, and the
Absolutely.
strategy needs to include both. I'm
Absolutely.
actually really curious because you're very faith-based
Mhm.
and lead with that in your life and in your business. There's this I talk a lot about alignment, and so it's almost
Yes.
like once you and your husband came together and brought your full authenticity, your full self, your full honest, like this is the situation, that it then opened up a portal for you all to align and
Mhm.
begin kind of moving through some of those issues. But the
Mhm.
question I have is in regard to when you were in the mucky muck, as
Mhm.
I'll call it, when you were in
Yes.
it, And he's being so vulnerable and honest and laying it on the table, and you're not. How did you reconcile that with your faith? Because faith would tell you, be humble, don't be prideful, like all of these kind of things. So how did you reconcile that once you finally were in a position where you're like, I really need to come clean about this?
Paul talks about having a thorn in the flesh
Mhm.
and asking over and over and over and over again for it to be removed. Pride is my thorn.
Mm, okay.
So I saw it. I knew exactly what it was. I was so ashamed and embarrassed that it had a hold on me that
Yes.
I couldn't in that moment get through. And that became the prayer
Mhm.
was, I know I've worked through some prideful things in the past. This is a new level of pride.
Yeah.
So I can't do this in and of myself.
Mhm.
Um, just journal entry after journal entry after journal entry, prayer, lots of prayer, some fasting.
Yeah. Being very
I
intentional about
knew
it.
exactly what
Yes.
the issue was. It was
Okay.
just straight pride.
Mhm.
There's a day in the book I could no longer afford my house, my mortgage.
Mhm.
So I sold my house, and it was 2004, which is the boom of housing right before the
Yeah.
bust of housing,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
So I'm out there looking for a new place to live, and in my mind, I'm just gonna rent a house, right? Not understanding that the same boom that brought me this very nice offer on the one on in just one weekend is now the thing that's causing it to be ridiculously difficult for me to find a new place to live,
Yeah.
right? And there was a couple that wanted to buy my house and sell and rent it back to me,
Right.
right? And I just thought that was brilliant because then
Right.
no one would know I had to sell.
Yes. See?
And they were not able to
Mm.
qualify. And I knew immediately why.
Yeah.
You are not going to hide.
Right.
You're not going to hide. You must vacate this address
Yeah.
so that you can come face to face with the pride that is got you so bound
Mhm.
in this realm of your finances.
And I
And
can appreciate you for sharing that because so many people struggle with pride. And
yes,
specifically, people of color have really
yes,
been taught to like stay private, don't
yes,
tell people your
yes.
problems, don't, right? Share that.
Yep,
And so it's a really challenging pattern, whether it's money, whether it's relationship problems,
right.
like whatever it
Whatever it
is,
is.
it becomes very challenging to like
Yeah,
show that, and
yeah.
so that's why I do speak so much about authenticity because
Mhm.
as soon as you get real with yourself and
Yes,
vulnerable and you share with the right people, obviously, right?
yes.
That's when so many blessings start to pour through because the
And
support becomes available, the
I
knowledge becomes
know.
available, and what you may not have seen or had access to in your mind previously
Oh my
becomes
gosh.
accessible.
It was amazing. We're single, we're dating. We did not combine our money. We didn't live together. We did none of those things until after we got married. So once I opened my mind to the fact that we're in this together, now we're sharing ideas on this parallel journey,
Yes.
all of it aligning to
Yes.
get us to the altar when we then bring everything together. And now it becomes like the Clydesdales horses that are equally yoked, right? So we're pulling together and we're making so much more progress together than we did
Yeah.
separately because we are equally yoked. We're on the same page. It doesn't mean that we didn't have disagreements. It's really interesting because as we think about our money personalities,
Mhm.
right? We have the same money personality, which is a little bit it's called spender saver in
Mhm.
Ken Honda's Happy Money book. Okay.
Mhm.
And so
Good
both
book.
of us, it's an excellent book.
Mhm.
So both of us are spender savers,
Mhm.
but we want to spend and save different things.
Mhm. Yeah, of course. Makes sense, yeah. Yeah.
So we still do this even now. It's just like,
Yes.
oh, I can't believe you want to buy that. And it's like, oh, I can't believe you want to save for that. And why are we saving for this when you want to buy for that? And but because we understand that we are still here together, we find our way through it, you
Yeah,
know?
because that's
And
partnership. That's partnership.
absolutely.
And I believe that you coming clean about your financial situation was actually the first step towards
Absolutely.
actually creating the partnership
Yes.
because both people need to bring their challenges
Yep.
and start to solve them together, right? Aligning in
Yeah.
those ways. And I actually love that you brought up a book because books for me in relationships have been lifesavers
Huge.
because sometimes we don't understand where the disconnects are
Yes.
or we don't appreciate or honor the other person's needs,
Point of view.
desires as much, as we for ours. And so books a lot of times can bridge that gap.
I
And I
totally
actually
agree.
started to think that like reading books together becomes quite sexy.
Yeah, yeah, we do that. So
Yeah.
our kids lived 4 hours away from us.
Mm.
And so we were huge. We borrowed back then. This is dating ourselves just a little bit. We borrowed books on CD from the library.
Yeah, I remember those days.
Okay. So the car would be filled
Yeah.
with all these books on CD,
Yeah.
and we would listen together while
Mhm.
we had this 10-hour drive because it would be
Wow.
4 hours there, two
Yeah.
hours to gather everybody, get food, and then 4 hours back. And we would do this on the beginning of the weekend, on the end of the weekend. And so lots of interstate travel, right?
Yes.
And we hit so many of these pivotal books, both in the faith-based arena and in the financial-based arena, and some that bridged beautifully together, and we would
Yeah.
pause it, and talk about that, that section and what it meant to us and things of that nature. We have this thing where we call a dream date,
Yes.
where and this dream date is what caused us to move from Kansas to Kentucky.
Oh, wow.
And it's all about, where do you see us in 2 weeks, in 2 months, in 2 years, in 20 years? What are we doing? What are you thinking? How are you, positioning yourself, for us, for the future? And it's such a place of vulnerability.
Mm.
And the only way to get there is when you let go of the pretension, associated with having to be perfect, having to be right, everything having to be in this, box of perfectionism that no one can stand up to.
I love it.
And it's been
I love
beautiful.
that ritual for a relationship in general.
Yeah.
So as we start to round out this conversation, there's just so many different ways that we could go with this, and so many lessons already
Yeah.
gems that have been dropped. I'd love for you to speak to the listener who's out there right now. Um, our audience is high achieving women outside looking in. Everything looks beautiful and perfect and shiny, but there are
Yes.
parts within that they're kind of struggling with, and many of which could be money. So I'd
Mhm.
love for you to speak to that woman, speak into her because she's probably struggling with some pride. She's
Yeah.
probably not wanting to share and be vulnerable about her situation. And part of that is because she just doesn't have a solution on how to move through it. So, what would you
Right.
say to her? Speak to her heart.
So, two things that come to mind as you sort of frame that out. The first is to love the little girl.
Mm,
So much of who we are now is because we have sheltered that little girl for so long. And because of that, she didn't get her fair shake, right? She had to grow up way too fast. She became, sister mama, there's so many different nuances, and she missed out.
hmm
And so now that we are, this high achieving woman, we don't think we can go back. It is so important that we nurture the little girl. Okay. How do you
Right.
do that? You take a bubble bath. You go read a book. You take a day off from work and just sit in your pajamas all day and watch whatever movie you want. You put it on the calendar to get a massage every month. Well, Lisa, I don't think I can afford to do that. Yes, you can. When
Yes.
you redirect the monies that you have, do you really need 3 Hulu subscriptions? Or do you just need Amazon Prime because everything is on there, right? And then
Yes.
take all of that subscription money
Yeah.
and redirect it. We're not using new money. We're just using the same money in a way that is much more holistic, right?
Yeah.
Nourish and feed that little girl, because in doing so, your life today and 20 years from now will be so much richer because she is much more fulfilled. Okay.
100%. And
That's the first thing.
in essence, you're saying start to rebuild that self-worth,
Absolutely.
right? Because when you're
Absolutely.
living in shame and in pride and you're
Right.
hiding,
Right.
you're not allowing your natural essence, right? Your
Right.
light, your power to shine through.
Absolutely.
And there's only 2 real ways to move through any kind of a negative financial situation, and that is to decrease expenses, which is not always fun,
Oh,
right? And necessary though, and
right.
also to increase your income. So it's
Right.
really finding a way to do that sweet spot
Right.
where you're still enjoying your life. So you mentioned the
Absolutely.
massages. I'm a massage fanatic.
Me too.
And during lean times in the past, I would
Mhm.
go to massage schools,
Yes.
right? And things of that
Yes.
nature. So there's always a
There's
way
a
to
way.
take
There's a
care of
way.
yourself
Yeah.
and stay on track with achieving your goals.
Right. I
Um,
only use massage therapists that take Spa Finder because I can
uh,
buy the Spa Finder gift card or gift
yes.
certificates from Costco.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes.
I
And
think I've
so
heard of that. Yeah. I'm
I
not
get a 20% discount, but
yes.
because I typically use a female massage
Yes.
therapist, she doesn't see a difference.
Mhm.
I still pay her the full amount,
Right.
but it saved me 20% because I bought them at a discount.
Understood. And
Yeah.
so just on a little side bonus here,
Yeah,
if you don't already have an affiliate link, you should.
absolutely. So the second thing that we have to do is recognize that we aren't supposed to do it alone.
Yeah,
You're not
absolutely.
supposed to know everything. It's okay to
Mhm.
ask,
Mhm.
and my husband always says this, and this is so important for us to recognize. It really is empowering to pay to shorten your learning curve,
Yes.
okay? Because free is free for a reason.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so when you start with, I know I'm going to pay for this, you get the person's A game.
Mhm. Mhm.
And when you bring your A game and they bring their A game, oh my goodness, there's magic to be made. But when you are trying to shortcut, and it really isn't because you're wasting
Time.
time, and time is money. Let's just go there, right?
Mhm.
And the expertise that you're getting, the value is not the same because it's not the A game,
Yeah.
right? You're getting snippets from YouTube and you think you can put it together. You're not positioning yourself to get a second opinion or to take the time to prayerfully consider the offer or whatever that thing is because you're trying to shortcut the system
Mm.
because you think you can't afford it
Yeah.
when reality is you can't not afford it, right?
Yeah. It's
That's
an
a double
old
negative.
program that needs
Yeah,
to be rewired for sure.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So
When we
for
do
oh,
those two things, when we do
mhm.
those two things as high achieving women, we put ourselves on a track that is just going to be mind blowing. We don't even realize the magnitude it's going to bring.
Get out of your own way. That's what
Mhm.
I'm hearing. Get out of your
Yeah,
own way. So, for our listeners who are, been tuned in, maybe they're taking some notes, things are resonating. Where do you hang out online? Social media, LinkedIn?
mhm,
Like, where's the
yep,
best place for people to connect with you? And we'll
um,
put some, in show notes as well. But
absolutely. Thank you. Lisa Y. Jones, LYJ, there are a lot of us out there, is where I hang out. I am not on Facebook. The Lord took me off of Facebook in 2020. So
okay,
I'm on Instagram, and LinkedIn. My website is financiallyawakened.co. And if you do /newsletter, you can get my weekly drippings. I drip on my subscribers every week with nuggets around what it means to be busy in the realm of money and to also be busy in the realm of time. So we want to free
Yeah.
both of those up. So yeah,
Time is actually it's our
it
greatest
is.
resource, and it's one that we
Absolutely.
can't get back. And
Nope.
I think people really undervalue that.
I completely
Even when it
agree.
comes to delegating tasks. Yeah, I mean, that's a whole conversation in itself. So I appreciate you for, spending your time with us, sharing your
Absolutely.
wisdom, because it's not all about knowledge, it's about wisdom
No, that's
and
so good,
experience.
Patrina. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
So we've changed some lives together today, or at
That we
least put
have.
them on path for that
Yes.
change.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you, the audience, for tuning in to another episode of Living Room Wisdom, where your story is your glory. And if you want to be in the presence of amazing women like Lisa and some of the other guests that we've had, go ahead and take a look at our Sovereign CEO Collective. This is a beautiful community that we're curating. It's an application only process, but take a look, reach out to us with any questions that you might have. And until then, mark your calendars next week, same time, same place for Living Room Wisdom. We'll see you soon. Thank you so much again, Lisa,
I
for being here.